Hi everyone, and welcome to Lunch Hour Lessons with Allison. I'm Allison Mädl, and today is June 19th, 2019. Each week on Wednesdays at 12:30, I come to you live to bring you a topic related to nutrition and health that I think is interesting and give you a lesson to take with you into your daily life. If you like what you hear, feel free to comment or like this video. And as always, I post a transcript of the lesson on my blog at allisonmadel.com. This week's topic is your stress response and how to tame it. Your autonomic nervous system includes two components, the fight or flight stress response, called the sympathetic response, and the rest and digest response, called the parasympathetic response. The fight or flight response is what we're going to talk about first, and that prompts a variety of physiological actions to give you quick energy to allow you to survive a stressful event. One is the production of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and that increases blood pressure, increases blood sugar, and it suppresses the immune system. Other actions are acceleration of heart and lung action, inhibition or complete shutdown of digestion, dilation of blood vessels for muscles, tunnel vision, and shaking. So all of this is in response to a stressful event. And you can see we don't want to be digesting when we're trying to run away from something. We want to be able to run fast, so that hence the shuttling of blood to the muscles, tunnel vision, so that we lock onto something and we just go for it. So this is a stress response. In our busy lives, it's easy to get stuck in this fight or flight stress response indefinitely. Whereas in the past, our ancient ancestors would have really been required to fight or flee, maybe from a wild animal, once in a while. These days we're bombarded with stressful events all day, every day. Things like rush hour traffic, continuously reviewing your to-do list, deadlines at work, eating processed and junk foods, little exposure to the outside, toxic environmental and relational exposures, and chronic disease, either in ourselves or our family, are just some of the examples of extremely stressful situations that continuously prompt the fight or flight physiological actions that I just mentioned. You're like stressed out just thinking about it all. And the sad part is, because the primary mechanism of the fight or flight response is really to prompt the body to increase cortisol, the stress hormone, chronic disease can develop from high cortisol, which itself is a stressful situation, and then it perpetuates the cycle. A few of the impacts of chronically high cortisol are insulin resistance, lowered liver detoxification capacity, and increased intestinal permeability. That means, in other words, that being chronically stressed can eventually lead to diabetes, liver toxicity, and leaky gut. Even if you're eating a really good diet. Remember, stress response shuts down digestion. So the best food is not going to be nourishing if you're not digesting it. So the point is to make conscious choices to reduce areas of diet and lifestyle stress. And it does have to be a conscious choice, because most people's normal lives are just inherently stressful as they are. Sometimes we can change where we work, or who we live with, or what our commute is like, or how many activities our kids participate in, but sometimes not. And if not, then we have to find ways to manage the stress. Managing the stress means purposefully activating the other component of our autonomic nervous system, which is called the parasympathetic response, or rest and digest response. So those are the two, fight or flight, or rest and digest, which is what we're going to talk about now. This rest and digest response is in charge of activating digestion. How does it do that? It dilates blood vessels that lead to the GI tract. It stimulates salivary gland secretion. So we actually make saliva to digest what's in our mouth. And it accelerates the absorption of nutrients through peristalsis, which is like the rhythmic contracting of our intestines to move food through and aid in absorption. It also helps calm the nerves to reduce them to normal function, and allows us to transition from the waking state into drowsiness and then into sleep. So one way to activate the rest and digest state is to take 3 deep breaths before eating to make sure that digestion is turned on. So we'd actually sit down and just take 3 deep breaths while our food is in front of us, maybe smell the food to get that brain action going to get ready for digesting it. You can also set the body in a calmer state for a longer period of time if you'd actually go outside and breathe. Like I talked about a few weeks ago, in one of my lessons. So also things like meditating, stretching, gentle exercise that actually is rejuvenating rather than stimulating can also move us into a rest and digest state. But there's one thing that's the last thing I'm going to talk about, which I found is the most effective way to break out of that fight or flight response, and it's called alternate nostril breathing. So here's how to do it. You're going to put your finger over your right nostril. You're going to inhale through the left for a count of 6. Then you're going to move your finger to close the left nostril and exhale through the right nostril for a count of 10. With your finger still over the left nostril, inhale through the right to the count of 6. Then move your finger to close the right and exhale through the left for a count of 10. So inhaling is 6, exhaling is 10. You're going to always inhale, hold, switch, exhale on the alternate nostril, inhale, hold, switch, exhale on the alternate nostril. And you just do that as a cycle back and forth. Doing this, even for a few rotations, is really wonderful for your health. And even just as I did that in the example, I can already feel myself kind of calming down from that hyper adrenalized state I was earlier. If you're someone whose heart just starts pounding, like right when you hit the alarm in the morning, maybe do this alternate nostril breathing for a little while and hit the snooze button and then wake up gently and naturally. It's going to set the body up for more of a relaxed start to the day. And really any time of the day is good to do this, especially if you're feeling a little bit frazzled or something. You sit in the car before you rush off to the next errand, just do this a little bit. If you are struggling with more of a serious condition like digestive disorders or elevated blood pressure or blood sugar, you might want to make a habit of doing this like 10 minutes per day, which is actually very healing. It, like I said, rest and digest, and that resting state is what activates the body to actually start healing. So I'd recommend making that a regular part of your routine. That's all the time we have for today. Feel free to tell a friend this week's lunch hour lesson, which is rest and digest to prevent chronic disease. Again, rest and digest to prevent chronic disease. Like my page to get the weekend tip that comes out on Saturday. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.